Ross, Blue Shield of Michigan Wellness Coordinator. And today, since it's Cinco de Mayo, I decided that we, sorry, I had a tickle in my throat, should make kind of like a little spin for breakfast instead of dinner. You're thinking of tacos, you're thinking of maybe enchiladas, different things that kind of help celebrate this day. But we are going to make an egg-baked casserole. There's different ways you can make this. This is a kind of a spin on it. It's a Mexican egg-baked casserole. We like to make them a lot for dinner, breakfast, lunch, have those for lunches. And they're really easy to prep, and usually you can just do it all in one pan, and I'll kind of show you. Besides cooking, if you're using any meat, cooking that will take another pan. But usually it's just one pan, whip it together, throw it in the oven, and then you have enough. Either if it's just 2 people, you'll have enough for leftovers, or even a family, just depending on how much everybody eats. Sometimes we make a double batch, so we'll make 2 pans of that. So just kind of playing around with it, and we made this recipe and we loved it, and so now I kind of want to share it with you. So today what you'll need is either, if you want to put some protein or anything in there, you can always add like chickpeas or another like protein in it. You can add hemp seeds too as well. If you don't want to use any meat, you can use chorizo, you can use sausage, you can use, we're using ground beef. We get all of our stuff from like a local farmer that uses only clean products. They're farm raised and they're grass fed. So that's kind of where we get ours from. We're just lucky enough to live in an area where that can happen. So we are going to start by cooking the meat. And so I put it in this big pan. We are using 2 pounds today because you can use 1 pound. Certainly. I'm using 2 because I want to make mine just a little thicker and a little more heartier. So it's all based off of like how much protein you want to add. So we're kind of making this packed with protein just based off of how much activity we do. We kind of need to pack our protein in. So I'm just going to chop it up, kind of get it going, get it warm. I just threw the ground beef in there, and we're just going to cook it until it's cooked through. And I'm also going to add, so in this little bowl here, kind of a little fancy, but usually you don't have to put it in a bowl, you just kind of throw it in there. Decided to have a little fun with it. So we have salt, we have paprika, we have parsley in there, and then a little pepper. And I'm just going to sprinkle that over the meat just to give it a little flavor, because just putting it in the pan we will add seasoning to the egg bake, but this will add a little flavor to the meat, and then when it kind of cooks together in the oven, it makes a little more flavorful dish than you would get if you didn't season it. So I'm just going to cook it, chop it up, mix it together. So it would be the same thing. Chorizo, you probably don't need to season as much. And if you want to, and you don't want to buy like sausage, because sometimes sausage can have like a ton of added stuff in it, we usually just get ground pork, and we will add our own seasoning to it, and that's kind of how we make our own sausage. So we'll add thyme, nutmeg, some salt, and then we'll just kind of make up our sausage that way. So it's very simple, very easy, and then we're not having to trust that it doesn't have a ton of ingredients in it. And it's really hard to find that's just like plain sausage that doesn't have a ton of stuff in it. So, but it's whatever your preference is, whatever is easiest for you. I'm just going to kind of cook that and let it cook. And while that's cooking, I am going to chop up some of the vegetables. So I kind of have peppers here. You can use any color peppers, green, yellow, red, anything that you want. And then I'm just going to chop this up. I already kind of cut a hole in it, pulled the seeds out. The seeds I always save, and I'm going to use to start like some pepper plants. So that's that's usually how I kind of do that. It's another way to recycle the things that you have in your kitchen. So I'm just going to cut it, and I'm going to place all of this in a pan afterwards. So I'm going to cut it into strips, and then I'll dice it up. Like I said, you can always put these in a blender and kind of chop it up that way so that you're not like slicing and dicing a ton. I know that's like the biggest issue that some people are like, well, I hate dicing all the vegetables up and prepping them and stuff, but it does go a long way when you kind of do it in a big batch. You can freeze them. They're really easy to freeze a lot of vegetables, so it makes it a little easier. And also, I always forget to mention this, to get credit for the Strive for 5, just comment below if you want to, or you can like it, whatever you feel free to do. But we will give you credit for your 5 living well classes. So I'm just going to keep chopping that so you get to kind of watch that. I do it very quick. There's no rhyme or reason of how I cut, but I just kind of go through, cut. I don't really worry about the sizes too much. You can use different vegetables in here as well. Like say you don't have peppers, then add other vegetables to it. The flavor of the egg bake is kind of what we're going for, is that Mexican flavor. So that is really, you can add other vegetables to it. You can also add, if you want to add a little more starch, you can add sweet potatoes. I haven't tried this yet, but you can add rutabaga, but you would have to boil the rutabaga before you add it to your egg bake, just because it's a little, it takes a little longer to cook. So yeah, I don't think it would be cooked well in the egg bake. So I would that's the only one that I would cook before. The potatoes would be totally fine to just throw in the egg bake as well. So I just cut it all up, and like I said, the seeds, you can save them, reuse them, plant them in like a potted garden, or I would start them from seed. Peppers are usually better. They will start from seed better. They will start better if you start them from seed indoors than planting them outside, just because the weather and the climate here. So that's kind of what I do. The same thing if you leave an onion on the counter, that's something that you can reuse to plant in your garden. Anything that starts to have a growth on it, like a little green growth, like even potatoes will have those little growths on it, you can use those and plant them again. So now that I have all that cut, I'm going to use 1 onion. So the onion, same thing, I just kind of cut it up into strips. Same thing, you put it in the food processor if you want. It's really any way that you prefer to do it. And I'm actually just going to chop it up a little more, just so you don't get huge chunks of onion in there. But kind of feel free to go. Sometimes I get really lazy, and I'll just kind of not really realize that there is huge chunks in it, but I like onions, so it's not a huge deal for me. So, and then we are going to add broccoli. You can add kale, you can add any other vegetable that if you want. If you're fine with just these vegetables we just cut up, that's totally okay. You don't have to add anything. I just wanted to add a little extra vegetable, so I'm going to add some broccoli, and I'm just going to chop those up. Actually, I'm going to throw these in the food processor. Now that I'm talking about the food processor, so this is our little mini processor, and I'm just going to throw these in here so that there's enough flavor. I'm going to check on this. Oh, it's already kind of cooked. Okay, so what I'll usually do is I'll drain any excess fat off. Awesome, and I'm just going to turn it down. So I'll we have a compost, so that is kind of what we do with our leftovers instead of throwing them in the trash. So, but like I said, it's kind of based off of what your preference is, but that one doesn't need to be cut. I'm just going to add a couple more, stuff it full, and then we're going to add that to our egg bake. Okay. So I used 1 pepper or 2 peppers. You can also use 1. I like to pack it with a ton of vegetables, really make it hearty. But you can use 1 onion, 1 pepper, and then this is probably about like a couple, I would say probably about half of a thing of broccoli, or you can use a 1/4. So we have that ready. I'm going to take my pan. This is a 13 by 9 pan, so I got it bigger, but you can definitely make it in a smaller pan. Just kind of be aware of your portions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to oil it up. Use my little oiler. This is olive oil. You can use any oil. We use coconut oil too, a lot. And I'm just going to actually take my hand, kind of oil the sides. Okay, so now that it's really oiled up, then I'm going to add my vegetables. So I'm going to take them, just scoop them, put them in there. All in there. This is going to be delicious. I'm so excited. So, okay, and then I'm going to add my broccoli. Definitely just go with whatever you want for the amount of vegetables you want to add to it. And then I'm just going to toss it around. Okay, so now I'm going to just rinse my hands. Okay, so then we're going to add our eggs. So we have chicken, so we have farm-raised eggs. And so we kind of have been eating a ton of eggs. So I had to get some from the store. So you'll kind of notice the difference between our farm-raised eggs, and sadly we've been eating so many that we just can't keep up with getting the amount that we want. So these are farm-raised eggs, and we have a little compost that we throw them in, and that we can add to our garden, and we just crack them up and throw them in there. So what I do is I just toss it in there, like so. You'll notice these eggs are kind of big. Definitely some of our chickens lay really big eggs, and some of them lay like normal size, but they're definitely brown. We get a lot of brown eggs, and we get blue eggs, like this one. It's just depending on the bird, the breed of bird, so that's how you get the different colored eggs. My mom has some that are, and then that lay like chocolate covered eggs. So kind of cool, different colors. These are the store-bought ones. They're white. I could not find free range organic, so it's okay. You do what you want. Eggs are not as big of a deal sometimes when it comes to kind of substituting out the organic or free range. So I'm adding about 10 eggs. You can add more if you want. You can add 12, or you can add less, just depending on how big that pan you're using. So it's gonna be lots of eggs. So you can see when we eat a ton of eggs, because we've been home, and we just have eggs a lot for different dishes. Our chickens just couldn't keep up with their egg production. So then I'm going to just rinse my hands, and I'm going to take a fork. You can use a whisk or anything, and I'm just going to whisk that around. Just kind of beat those eggs lightly in there, get everything covered, make it nice and fluffy. See, like it looks like that. So we're gonna add our seasoning. So what our seasoning starts with, these little, kind of getting fancy, I know, I usually use the different. I just put the spices in there. But this is paprika, smoked paprika. I like to add a little smokiness to it, and then this has cumin in it. So it's about a teaspoon of each. I'm not a huge cumin person, so we add it's usually a half a teaspoon for the cumin, and then a teaspoon for the smoked paprika. So, and then this has parsley, salt, and garlic. So it's about a teaspoon of salt. I put a handful of parsley, and then just a little bit of garlic, so like a sprinkle of garlic, about half a teaspoon. So I'm just going to put that in there. So now I'm going to mix it up, kind of mixing it and blending the flavors and seasoning all come together. And mix it together. Now if you notice that you need a little more egg mixture to it because it's all the vegetables aren't covered, you can add an egg again, more eggs, or you can add just a little bit of water. Really, like when I've been in a pinch and we don't have like enough eggs, I'll add a little bit of water, and that seems to do the trick. So once I kind of have it all mixed together, it kind of looks like this. Beautiful, very colorful, fun. So I'm going to take and I'm going to scoop the ground beef in there. So I'm just going to scoop, put it in there. So you'll notice when you're eating this, you're like, oh, there's a little bit of, you have a little Mexican flair to it. And this is like something you can make for any dish, any meal of the day. So we're actually going to have a little beef left over just because I don't want to overfill it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try to, so I'm going to mix the beef in there. You can do this all at once too. I just find it is to kind of do it in different sections so that it's a little easier to mix and make sure different things get coated. So this is really going to be a full dish, flavorful. So the next thing I do is kind of pat it down, just make sure everything's wet and in the egg mixture. It's going to be nice and fluffy. Remember, you can always add water if you feel you want it to be a little heavier, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm adding just a hitch of water. So I'll kind of show you. It's probably about a half cup of water that I'm going to add to that. Maybe even less. I just kind of feel it out, and then I'm going to mix it together. There we go. You can also add like a milk. You can add coconut milk, you can add regular milk, whatever you want. It will kind of make it a little creamier. We just haven't got any coconut milk in a while, so I did not want to add that to it. You can also make homemade hemp milk, which is really super easy. You can add that to here, and that'll add some protein. So this is what it looks like before it's baked. If you want to, we always add this on the end, but you can add some hatch chili to this recipe and just kind of put it in there. That'll add a little kick. You can add jalapenos to it. Whatever you feel, any vegetables, add it to it, throw it in there, have fun. You can even add, if you can have cheese, tolerate cheese, you can sprinkle cheese on top of it, cheddar, any cheese that you kind of have lying around, maybe it's pepper jack, sprinkle it on top, and then bake it in the oven, and it's kind of, it's really delicious. So what I'm going to do, put this up, and you're going to put this in the oven at 350. So I bake mine, just because our oven is a little older, I'm going to bake it for 25 minutes, feel it out. So when it doesn't jiggle anymore, kind of jiggle like side to side, and it's solid in the middle, because the middle is going to take the longest to cook, it's done. So when there's no jiggle and it's solid in the middle, when you tap it with your finger, if it's solid all around, especially in the middle, it's done, it's good to go. So I kind of touch and feel because our oven's so old that sometimes it needs a little longer than 20 minutes. So I'm going to put that in the oven, put my timer on 20 minutes, and there you have it. A simple, quick, easy breakfast. And it's really, you don't have to think about it too much. Just add whatever you want. So you can mix it up. Say you make it a different day and you want to add different seasoning, play with it. Really simple is just add salt and pepper to it, and then mix it all up, throw it in the oven with your veggies in it, and you have any meat that you want to add, and there you have it. A simple, easy meal to make, and you can have leftovers for the next day. So I hope you enjoy this. And if you have any questions, please feel to comment below. Don't forget to comment if you are you go back and watch this or you're watching it now. I appreciate you joining me today. I hope you have a good day and celebrate Cinco de Mayo today, however you choose. But just enjoy the day and have a beautiful